Varmt välkomna. Karin Lundh heter jag och står här i min egenskap av vice ordförande för Vandalorum. Och vi har också vår ordförande Jan-Ove Forsell här. Varmt välkommen Chris Martin. Fantastiskt att ha dig här. Årets Bruno Mathsson-pristagare. Och vi är väldigt glada att du är på plats, att du tackade ja till att göra utställningen. Du och den kommer snart att presenteras närmare av Hedvig Hedqvist. Mycket varmt välkommen. En av våra absolut främsta formskribenter, författare och tillika medförfattare till den fina jobbsboken som finns tillsammans med Kristina Mattsson. Nu ska jag ha glasögonen, förlåt Hedvig. Det är Jobs, keramik och textil, Lisbeth Jobs och Gocken Jobs. 2 systrar, 2 konstnärskap. Vi har också medlemmar i Mathsson-fonden. Monica Lemke är välkommen. Gunilla Allard också, tidigare Mathsson-pristagare. Och i fonden välkommen. Det känns ju extra att sitta så här. Det kanske ni också känner. Man har så mycket uttryck under rådande omständigheter i dessa tider. Men vi vet ju alla vad vi menar. Men att kunna sitta så här och ha en presentation och ha en utställning och en livslevande, fantastisk formgivare på plats. Det glädjer oss alldeles extra på Vandalorum. Det är första gången sedan mars som vi har föreläsning. Extra högtidligt och utställning. Det kommer ju att presenteras. Chris, du kommer att berätta. Men filmen som också finns att se i utställningen är helt ny och gjord för utställningen. Jag ska nämna att den här föreläsningen filmas för att den ska kunna nå ut till alla som inte har möjlighet att fysiskt närvara. Vi har precis maxantal här och det har vi kunnat göra med stöd av Kamprads stiftelsen. Så det känns värdefullt. Nu ska vi ju gå in på energihöjandet här. Jag hälsar Hedvig Hedqvist varmt välkommen upp för närmare presentation.
Ja, så oerhört roligt att se er alla här. För Mathsson-fonden säger jag detta. Och Chris Martin är som sagt vår årets pristagare. Det kan inte ha undgått någon. Så jag börjar med att lite sammanfatta bakgrunden till hur vi har resonerat och hur vi tänker på Bruno Mathsson. Och egentligen när man är i Värnamo så kan ju alla Bruno Mathsson. Men vi har i alla fall vissa aspekter som handlar om, som är en bakgrund till hur vi har valt. Och ni vet ju Bruno Mathsson, han utbildade sig till snickare, finsnickare här i Värnamo. Pappa var snickare. Och han kom på ganska tidigt att han ville bli formgivare, designer. Och han insåg att han behövde fördjupa sina kunskaper och hur skulle det gå till. Och det var ju ingen lätt historia, men han kom fram till att han kunde ju faktiskt titta i internationella tidskrifter. Och jag tycker fortfarande det är väldigt intressant hur han så tidigt i sitt liv insåg att han måste inte bara hänga med i den svenska utvecklingen. Den kände han säkert till någorlunda via tidskriften Form eller Svenska slöjdföreningens meddelande. Utan han ville vara internationellt orienterad. Så han började helt enkelt tack vare Röhsska museet och Värnamos bibliotek som spelade en väldigt stor roll i sammanhanget, så såg han till att följa upp vad som hände internationellt. Han fick ju också ett internationellt genombrott redan 1937 på världsutställningen och sen 1939 på de två världsutställningarna, från med världsutställningen i Paris 37 och världsutställningen i New York 39. Men han reste aldrig till de här städerna. Ja, det är liksom, men Bruno skapar ändå, tack vare sina stora genombrott, tack vare att han ändå sedan efter kriget skaffade sig också kontakter framförallt i USA men också i Frankrike och England, så fanns det runt Bruno ett internationellt nätverk. Det är väl en viktig bit i hans bakgrund för hans vidare karriär. Och nu hoppar jag lite, för nu hoppar jag fram till 1990-talet. Vi hade just gått igenom den postmoderna eran. Milano var den hetaste stället att åka till en gång om året, och där flockades italienska, franska, engelska, svenska formgivare. Alla var där. Och det var så uppenbart vilka det var som hade tagit kommandot. Det var inte skandinaver och det var knappast heller några från England. Men det började inträffa någonting. Helt enkelt så att några unga engelsmän slogs ihop sig med några svenskar, och de uppvaktade också några unga italienare. Och på något vis så kom de på att vi är en ny generation, vi kan göra någonting annat, vi kommer utvecklas på ett annat sätt. I den här gruppen fanns en engelsk formgivare som hette Jasper Morrison, och det fanns en till som hette James Irwin, och de träffade två svenska arkitekter, Thomas Sandell och Thomas Eriksson, och de bildade någon slags, kan man säga, gruppsamverkan, nätverk. Nu tycker ni att jag är jättelångrandig för jag pratar inte om Chris, men han kommer snart in i bilden. Det är därför jag måste ge er den här bakgrunden, för de här, kan man säga, 4 personerna, Tom Dixon fanns också med. Det fanns flera namn som jag borde nämna, men den här gruppen, nätverket, dialogen mellan de här unga formgivarna från framförallt Storbritannien och från Sverige. Någon enstaka norrman hängde också på. Den blev väldigt viktig. Och i den här vevan så inträffade ju då att Chris Martin, en ung designstudent i England, han hakar också på Jasper Morrison från ett annat håll och lyckas dessutom, det ska du berätta mer om sen, så jag ska inte föregå Chris föredrag, men i alla fall måste jag ändå få säga att den intressanta kopplingen, han blir assistent till Jasper Morrison, och du får berätta om hur det gick till sen. Men vad är det som händer där vid faxmaskinen? Han upptäcker att Morrison har faxkontakt med de här skandinaverna och framförallt med de 2 svenska arkitekterna. Och det fick honom att förstå att det kanske var spännande att ta sig till Skandinavien efter färdig utbildning, vilket du också gjorde. Jag i min tur hade ganska mycket ögonen på vad som hände, både vad Thomas Eriksson, vad Thomas Sandell och vad Jasper gjorde. Så ganska tidigt så hakade jag på det här att det fanns också en assistent där som hade egen begåvning. Och det var där, så att jag kan ju säga att flera av oss i fonden har följt dig mycket länge. Så det är inte så att det här var en hux flux idé att vi i år ska vi ge priset till Chris Martin. Där vi har faktiskt absolut följt din utveckling som vi tycker har varit väldigt spännande. Särskilt hur du kan lyfta det arketypiska till något konstnärligt. Och överhuvudtaget hur din utveckling har. Och sen har du ju också då, vilket kan man ju säga är en tillfällighet i sammanhanget, men en betydelsefull sådan, i likhet med Bruno Mathsson, och har du tillsammans med din kompanjon Magnus Elebäck tagit saken i egna händer. Ni behöver inte övertyga en hel direktion om ni vill göra någonting. Ni vet vad ni vill göra och ni gör det. Och nu ska jag läsa upp för dig och för alla andra här juryns motivering. Och be dig också komma fram. Kom här. Och motiveringen är så här. Supernormal beskriver en kombination av två aspekter av design. Super, suveränt, strålande. Normal, normal. Medvetet, god, hållbar, funktionell form. Den brittiske sedan 2016 svenska möbelformgivaren Chris Martin är numera svensk. Förenar båda de här, både super och normal, i sin innovativa formgivning. Han lyfter det arketypiska till konstnärlig höjd, inkluderar humor och lekfullhet till den nivå som tål seriens upprepning. Med teknisk skicklighet och artistisk talang bidrar han till berikandet av den möblerade livsmiljön, ute och inne. Och här får du ett diplom, och det är en profil av Bruno Mathsson, gjord av John Melin. Och sedan vill vi ju också förstås i Mathsson-fonden att du ska kunna lite mer om Bruno Mathsson. Och eftersom vi har boken om honom på engelska, samtidigt som vi hoppas på att du ändå fortsätter att läsa på svenska, så får du här hans historia.
That's lovely. That's great. Thank you so much.
Ja, gratulerar.
Thanks so much.
Och nu ska du... Now it's over. The stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Some water. Great, thanks. Thank you very much. It's a great honour to receive this award and to be here and give a talk today. I'm very pleased to win this prize. How to start, right? I'm going to talk to you about my work and how I came to be an English designer living in Sweden. And yeah, I'm sure you're curious to know how I ended up on this path to receive this really nice award. So I'll go back to the beginning. This is where I'm from on the map. It's a small village in Hertfordshire called Cuffley. It's kind of a sleepy little English village with not much happening there. It's close to London. It's a nice place to live, but yeah, everyone under 20 living there wants to get away. The only thing ever to happen there was in 1916, a German Zeppelin was shot down. And it was the first ever Zeppelin to be shot down in England. And it landed next to the pub in the village. And that was a big event. So yeah, this is where I grew up. And yeah, the exhibition here today is called Chris Martin in 5 Designs. And I turned 50 this year, so it's kind of like one design for every 10 years. But this slideshow will talk about more than those 5 designs. It's including many others. Nothing much happened for the first 10 years, but in the second decade, at gymnasium or high school, I designed this project. For my A-level, I was allowed to invent my own brief. So I came up with the idea of a rucksack that could convert into a one-man tent. I thought that would be an exciting thing to do. And yeah, I realized that, I was drawing things that could be made. And if you can do that, then that's what design is. So it was my first encounter into the world of design. So there's the rucksack, and there's the tent. Yeah, kind of a strange thing. You can see here that I'm very blonde, and I was also slim and a bit quiet. So my nickname at school was Sven, as in having Swedish qualities. So this is 10 years before I even thought about moving to Sweden. But yeah, my teacher liked the project and he called the local press, and I ended up in the local newspaper and got my first taste of fame. Oh, and I should say it wasn't a very good design. I tested it in the garden and woke up in the morning and the whole of the roof of the tent was covered in condensation dripping down on me. And my dad said I was lucky that the bin men didn't take me away. But yeah, I was on the design track there. So I went through the education system in England, and you do something called a foundation course where you try different disciplines within art and design, graphic design, painting, photography, and I quickly honed in on furniture design. So this is the first chair that I ever developed into a model. And put some real effort in, and it was to be made from a single sheet of steel that was folded to make the armrests and the chair. And yeah, my tutor pointed out that it's going to be very heavy, it's very inefficient in its use of materials, and it's going to be very weak as well, despite the huge weight of steel in it. So another unsuccessful design, but at least I was, showing signs of modernist thinking. There was a glimmer of hope in this one. And yeah, being an all-metal chair with a kind of rational thoughts behind its production, it could be like a precursor to the TO chair that I designed 20 years later. So that was the foundation course, and then I ended up on a design course in Liverpool in the north of England. Things started to get a bit better, a bit more recognisable as useful furniture that could possibly be made. I had a really good teacher there called Roger who guided me on the right track, I'd say. And when I graduated, he recommended me to an employer he'd had in London who was a model maker. So I moved back down to the south of England and took a job as a model maker, which is a really strange job. This was in the early 90s, and it was before we used computers a lot to generate images, so everything had to be done by hand or crafted. And the model making industry supported the advertising industry. So this advert here, it's for silk cut cigarettes. And they had these ideas about, combining silk with knives and so on. So here we have a roll of silk queuing for a toilet with a knife logo. And my job in this was to make the door handle. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a tiny little door handle. And the art director, he didn't want to buy a normal door handle because of copyright reasons. So it had to be a handcrafted door handle. And I spent 2 weeks milling a block of aluminium to make this really nice little object. The art director kept saying, it's not normal enough, it's not normal enough. So it's a bizarre job, but really good fun because you get to work with lots of different materials and you machine things and learn tools. And yeah, I loved it. This was another project at the Model Maker. And here I had to mix different resins to get the right colour of beer. This is like a creamy beer theme on this. And this model here that you see, it was almost 1 metre high because the photographers like to have something big to photograph and light properly. So yeah, fascinating time there. But yeah, it wasn't all cigarettes and alcohol at the Model Maker. We did some architectural modelling as well. One day I got the job to make a bus stop model for Jasper Morrison. So I'm not sure if this is the actual built bus stop or if it's the model I made. But Jasper came in and we spoke about what he wanted from the model, and that was a nice change from cigarettes and booze. But yeah, I already knew about Jasper from my studies, and I was a really big admirer of his work. And I wrote him a letter when I was coming to the end of my model making year. And amazingly, I got a call back. I came back from a trip to Liverpool one afternoon, and my whole family were going crazy because Jasper had called. They all knew about him because I was always talking about Jasper and his work. And yeah, even the family cat ended up being called Jasper. So I felt very pleased to get a job with him. So I spent a year working for Jasper, which was a really exciting year. He was very generous with his time and his knowledge, and we got on really well. I didn't have a computer. I had a big drawing board and started drawing up designs for Capellini, for Floss, Alias and SCP in London. And it was an exciting time as well, because I think we'd kind of had a crazy period in design with postmodernism and lots of decorative things that I didn't really fully understand, but I felt like I could really relate to Jasper's design principles. So a great time to be there. And yeah, Hedvig mentioned the fax machine, which that was kind of where we got our proposals from around the world from other designers for this project that Jasper and James were running called Progetto Oggetto. Just like small objects in a sub-brand for Capellini. So the fax machine was always sending out drawings or sketches from different designers, but when it was Thomas Sandell and Thomas Eriksson, it just ran for ages, like pages and pages of faxes with really nice sketches in them. So that's how I got to know about the two Thomases. Oh, and there's James Irvin. I got on well with him as well. Yeah, he was really good to talk to, and yeah, you can see him flipping the bird here at a Capellini show in the mid-90s. But I always enjoyed talking to James. Oh, and I should say I worked for Jasper after my Liverpool course, and the whole idea of working for Jasper was to get into the Royal College of Art. It was like a preparation year for the postgraduate course there, which of course I got into having worked for Jasper. And then I spent 2 years there. Yeah, really nice course and good tutors. And when I came out, it seemed like I could move to Sweden because I'd got to know Thomas Sandell and Thomas Eriksson, and I just wrote them another letter. And yeah, Thomas Sandell answered actually. So I moved over to Sweden and yeah, got an apartment and started. One of the first projects was for Moderna Museet, an Architectur Museet. That was in 1995. This was my degree show chair at the Royal College of Art, and I wanted to do something, very minimal. I was sticking to these modernist ideas that I was leaning towards, so everything had to be square with this chair. I was obsessed with square profiles, square seats, and I made this nice lightweight chair. And I showed it at my degree show, and it nearly became a Capellini project, but that fell through. Instead, it ended up being a product for CBI, a Swedish company that I'd got to know. So here I was in Sweden working for Thomas Sandell, and my degree show chair had ended up with a small Swedish company, and this was on a royalty payment agreement, so I started to think about infinite wealth and how rich I would be. But yeah, I think many designers realize that doesn't always work with royalty agreements. We didn't sell a single chair, but it was nice to be in a catalogue with people I admired, like Björn Dahlström and Thomas Svanström and James Irvin's sofa there. So yeah, starting life in Stockholm. Pretty soon I met this guy. This is Magnus Elebäck. He's a similar age to me, and he was working for Thomas Eriksson, so we were moving in the same circles. it's not really clear how we first met. According to Magnus, I was helping myself to his gin at one of his parties and playing his records. But I remember another story, which was I was a guest teacher at Beckman's for a while, and I taught Magnus how to make models, and so I was his professor and he was my finest student. But this was a long time ago anyway. We became friends and we've been working together for a long time. Magnus was a bit faster than me to set up his own studio. He quit his job and started freelancing for IKEA. This is a really nice table by Unifor, designed by Jean Nouvel. Magnus had 2 of these in his studio, and one was covered with prototypes and a computer and samples and so on, and the other one was just perfectly clean. And he invited me round, and I think after 5 coffee visits, I realised that the clean desk was for me. And Magnus was just gently nudging me to quit my job, which I did shortly afterwards, and took the desk next to Magnus, and that was in about 2000. So we've been working in the same room since 2000, although in the beginning we were both freelancing separately for IKEA. But we always found we worked really well together. So pretty soon we formed a company and joined forces. Here we are building a snow sculpture in Winnipeg, but that's a different slideshow. I won't go into that one. So having a studio meant finding clients and being a designer, and I was really lucky. I got a really nice contract with IKEA, which gave me some guaranteed days every month. So you didn't have to worry if you wouldn't get any projects or anything. You just got fed these projects. And this is the first design I ever made for IKEA. Actually, I did this when I was still working at Thomas Sandell's office. It was a really nice, I think it's really nice, tray table, quite Scandinavian looking. And really functional. It's just based on a round circle, because that's a perfect shape for a tray, and a square base, because then you can have a wheel in each corner. It's playing with geometry, really. And it ended up on the IKEA cover, which was, that was quite exciting to see that something I designed ended up on a publication. I think they have more than 70 million copies made, so I realised that I could design things that people wanted and that could be popular, and that's what I want to do with my work. So we had a period of maybe 10 years where we were working for IKEA, and it was really interesting. It's a really good place to learn about design. Sometimes we had quite experimental briefs. This one, I was just dropped off in a factory in Germany and told to come up with something, and this was the idea that I came up with there. It's a kind of mattress that's split in 2, so then it could give you all these different functions, like a giant soft desk or a 2-tiered bench for you and your mates, or even a double bed. So this was one of the more experimental projects that I did at IKEA. And you realise that a product isn't just to do with the designer, it's to do with everyone else around it, and you work in a team, and there's someone taking care of the purchasing, the packaging, and the compliance. And you can imagine how it is with IKEA. They're so thorough in how they release a product that both me and Magnus really got to learn about how products are made, how to work with the factory, which proved to come in handy a bit later in the story. This was another popular product at IKEA, a sofa bed that kind of based on a futon shape and can easily be folded flat to a double bed. The idea was that someone could unfold it to a bed with one hand and hold a glass of wine in the other and not spill a drop. And yeah, that works. And they also have a nice materials library. So I caught a glimpse of this new material they were working with called wood plastic composite. It's a mixture of wood fibres and plastic. And I thought it was a really interesting material that could offer new possibilities for form. So yeah, IKEA have this project called the PS Collection, where you can be a bit more experimental. And yeah, I designed this chair for the 2005 PS Collection, and they had a theme of rebellion. That was the only brief, really, do something rebellious. So I came up with this idea of a chair that you could rock back on, because, you know, all the rebels at school rock back on their chair. And yeah, this was the sketch for the Ellen chair, which is another, yeah, I think quite recognisable design that I made for IKEA. And because of the material, we were able to make it so that it snaps together in 6 pieces, and you don't need any tools to assemble it. You just clip it together. There's no extra fittings. It was a really interesting piece of industrial design, I think. But yeah, here's a group of them. And yeah, it even ended up in Konstantin Gacic's exhibition in London a few years later at the Serpentine Gallery. So I was really proud of that. But yeah, there was a problem with it because I turned it into a rocking chair. Originally I had quite short rockers on the back there, but as soon as it became a rocking chair, the IKEA technicians said we have to define it as a rocking chair, and therefore the rockers have to be much longer, kind of 20 centimetres long. So it really changed the look of the chair with this long rocker coming out the back. And I didn't really like that because, yeah, I thought it made the chair a bit impractical. I wanted to go back and take the rockers away completely, but IKEA were really keen on this rebellion theme. So, yeah, the rockers stayed on as long as they are, and it did make the chair impractical. It had took up a lot of floor space, which IKEA customers don't have. So this product only stayed in the catalogue for 2 or 3 years, I think. But this was the last thing I did for IKEA in the same material, wood plastic composite, and yeah, this was another successful product. Yeah, it uses the strength of the material, and it has a nice dynamic look to it, and almost looks like it shouldn't work. I based the design around a stacking chair principle with the back legs wider than the front, so you could just stack them up easily, which is great for IKEA and transport. And yeah, it ended up on the IKEA catalogue cover again, so it felt, yeah, this was the last thing I did for IKEA, and it felt like I'd come full circle, ending up on the cover finally. But me and Magnus, we found that we'd done a lot for IKEA, and maybe it was time to change the way we worked a little bit. It was a good 10 years, but started to feel like it was repeating itself a bit, or we needed more of a challenge. So we went to the Cologne Furniture Fair and tried to pick up some new clients and maybe get some royalty deals. So we showed our portfolio around and met a few companies, and some of them liked what we were doing, and we got some briefs. One of them was to design a wire chair, and that was from a German company called Elmar Flattertoe. So they set this brief, just design a wire chair, which is what I set about doing for, I think about 6 months of sketching and analysing the problem and thinking, what could you do with this material, and why, really. I wasn't really sure why a chair should be made of wire, but I thought it's going to be interesting if we do something really comfortable and it's made of wire. That was kind of the challenge I wanted to to solve. So this is the first sketch of the TO chair, and yeah, I thought that was worth developing further, and wrote back to Elmar Flototto, and said we were ready to give him a presentation. And at this point, I was calling the chair Bender because it was made from bent steel wires. And I like that robot character from Futurama, if you know him, who has the same name. So this was the Bender chair that we sent back to the German company, and they really liked it and said, yes, we'll produce this for you. We'll give you a royalty deal. And yeah, off we went. But they kind of struggled with the production. They sent it out to their sub-suppliers, and they just kept getting it wrong. This was one prototype that came back, and the supplier said, this chair's never going to work. It's too weak. We need to put a cross brace on the back legs. Otherwise, it's just going to collapse. But they'd made the chair in really soft copper wire, which would never work. It was really the wrong material. And then another one said, this chair tips over backwards. It's no use. But they were off by 10 or more centimeters in the position of the back leg. So after several of these attempts, the German company said, sorry, it's a nice chair, but we can't produce it. It's not right for us. And yeah, I realized that this was kind of an easy thing to set up in production, because it's just made with steel wire, and all you need is a bending machine and a good welder, and there's very little tooling investment in it. So I proposed to Magnus that we just launch it ourselves and give it a go. With the Stockholm Furniture Fair coming up quickly, we decided to make a batch of chairs. So I wrote to the Stockholm's Messen asking for some space. I think you can sense the urgency in my application there. I didn't fill out every row, but got the message across. And we booked a space with 6 months to go. So we needed to produce this chair. So I wrote to the Polish embassy in Stockholm and asked for a list of suppliers. I just had an idea. I knew that Poland were good with metal, and they're pretty close to Sweden. So I just picked the Polish embassy, and they sent me a list, and I drove around Poland, talking to manufacturers, talking to factories. And yeah, a couple of months later, this came back by email. This was the first time I saw the TO chair as it is now. And yeah, this was an exciting image to get back, because it showed me that they could make it as we had drawn it. And yeah, it was quite exciting. They started with the easy chair version, but yeah, there's the side chair as well. So this was we realized that we needed to present it some way. We thought we'd make a furniture company around this chair. And here the company was called Chris and Magnus Furniture to begin with. That's what we came up with spontaneously, but soon realized that it's too close to Ben & Jerry's ice cream. So we just switched back to Mass Productions, which had been our kind of studio name for a long while. Yeah, we just felt that could work as a furniture company name too. But I didn't realize it was a controversial name when I came up with it. But a lot of people react when they hear Mass Productions as if, why would you shout about that? Mass Productions isn't a good thing, is it? But I always say that it is. I mean, if you share the cost of producing something, you can share the benefits of that production, and invest in sophisticated tooling, and make the best quality, benefit many people, and reach really good environmental criteria. So yeah, Mass Productions is good. Our friends at Marge Architects designed the booth for us. We wanted to have like 40 chairs in a cloud suspended from the ceiling in this very small space that we rented. Also at the same time, we decided to have a launch at a hotel in downtown Stockholm. So yeah, it was a really busy period getting ready for these two shows on two sites. And it was just me and Magnus at that time, so it was quite close to failing, actually. We presented it in a kind of pile of illuminated crates at the Ludmar Hotel. And yeah, just got ready in time. We actually had to chase, our chairs came over from Poland and they were supposed to be delivered to the studio, but the driver couldn't go down a narrow road, so he just decided to turn back to Poland, and we got a phone call that your chairs are going back to Poland. And this was the day before the furniture fair, so we quickly had to rent a van and chase the truck down the E4, and eventually got him to stop close on the hard shoulder, and we had to walk through really deep snow carrying our boxes of precious TO chairs into our small van. But yeah, we got there, and we had a furniture company. We had an idea about what to do and how to present our work. And yeah, just some nice images of the TO chair, TO collection, to make it look exciting. And this was our presentation. Yeah, we even invested in a neon sign. That's how serious we were. We knew there'd be more shows. So here we were, two brave young designers with many adventures ahead of them. Started to get some feedback from the press. And yeah, being someone from Cuffley, I'm more the kind of person who just orders some chairs, puts them in a van and drives them around and sells them almost out the back of the van. That's kind of the culture I come from, but it's really good that Magnus takes the role of CEO and I stick to what I do best, which is designing. So Magnus has this vision for the company, and he builds a furniture company, and I make sure that the design lives up to the company. So yeah, now we had a new routine of working. We were in charge of what we developed, what we designed, and how we presented it. So we got into this routine of designing, making at the factory, and then presenting. And yeah, we were able to repeat this process on, well, I think we have maybe 15 different product lines now, all designed by me. So yeah, designing, making, presenting, and picking up awards. That's like the fourth phase, if it all goes well. Yeah, I often get asked how I get ideas for my work. So here's an image of a waiter, and this is someone who works hard, and he has tools to allow him to do his job, like a bottle opener and napkins and so on. And I thought, we should honour that profession by giving him another tool to work with, and that should be a chair. So how would a waiter like a chair to be? This was the brief I set myself. So yeah, it's a very simple wooden chair, which is actually harder to find than you might think, but it has some qualities such as a small footprint so that you can put it on a table after service, and it's light and it's strong, and yeah, the legs are tucked in so you can't trip over it, and all of these ideas kind of got me thinking about the waiter chair, which has been a nice product for us. And here it is in a new version, a low, easy chair version with armrests now. This was the starting point for another product. I heard about the competition for the Skogskyrkogården, the woodland cemetery just outside Stockholm. So I thought I'd enter that and try. They were asking for a new bench to join the Gunnar Asplund bench that they have there. This is a well-known bench. And I like the idea with this little bend in the bench to make it more of a sociable product and bring people together. And I continued that into a curved shape, because that was something that I knew worked well from our dandy sofa. People like to sit in a curved shape and it brings people together. But I added other things to the brief, like, it had to be stackable, it had to be lightweight. I wanted it to have a high back, so it kind of enclosed people into groups. So this is how I see it being used as a kind of, you could have a stack of them and quickly make these enclosed outdoor areas to bring people together. In the end, it didn't make it through in the competition for the cemetery, but I don't think it should have done either. But it ended up being a interesting product, I think. That's the way it looks is just based on how I solved the problems of all the different parameters I set. It's just a solution, and if you pick the right problems to solve and you solve them nicely, then I think you end up with a good design. So yeah, just going to end here with a few nice pictures from products we've released that I've designed over the years. We have a company goal, which is to make a contribution to the contemporary history of design. So just keep trying to do that. That's what I do. Sometimes, hopefully, succeeding. And yeah, we have this nice annual event at the Stockholm Furniture Fair. And yeah, I've worked as a designer in different ways over the years, but I'm really happy with this current setup of having the freedom to do what you want and present it the way you want. It's not easy, but it's really satisfying when you get it right. And yeah, if you have a nice big party, get lots of people to come. Of course, I don't do it alone. I have this great team. We're 18 people in the company now. And yeah, I think on track for making a contribution to contemporary design. But if I ever get big-headed, I look back at where I started. This was I think I designed this when I was 15, and it was a camera holder to hold a really poor quality disc camera. And I even applied some 1980s graphics to it. So yeah, this is where I started. And yeah, it's another bad design. I've shown a few bad designs. But someone did tell me recently that maybe I'd invented the world's first selfie stick back in 1985, and I'll take that. Yeah, so that's my story as a designer, from this left-handed guy in his bedroom to this chap, Bruno Mathsson Prize winner. It's been a nice journey. And yeah, as for the future, one can only aspire to greatness. Thank you.
Tack så hemskt mycket. Man ser förmågan med handens närvaro. Man ser ju i dina texter, i dina ritningar, ditt modellarbete. Det finns där hela tiden. Du har handens kunskap. Du är inte den som börjar i datorn med 3D, CAD.
Not at first.
Jag skulle fråga, är det någon som har någon fråga? Vill passa på till Chris? Det tar lite tid att hämta sig, och det uppstår säkert frågor och tankar när ni tittar runt i utställningen. Än en gång stort varmt tack Chris Martin för att du kom hit, och tack Mathsson-fonden för att vi fick göra detta framträdande. Vi vet att det kommer vara en stor publik. Filmen får ni inte missa. Vi ska ju förklara utställningen öppnad, men jag tror du hade din...
Present and return. Accept a TO chair for your own studio.
Väldigt svårt att inte få med. Fantastiskt. Hör ni så här om jag höjer rösten lite? Ni såg ju processen. Ofta ser man ju det färdiga resultatet, men en fantastisk bakgrund, och tusen tack. Den här kommer ingå i Formstudions samling av stolar. Det är porträtt och fingeravtryck från några av våra främsta formgivare med väldigt olika personlighet. Tack så hemskt mycket. Det kommer fantastiskt. Och utställningen är öppnad, och tusen tack. Och tack publiken.